Hey painting friends, welcome back. My name is Stoof. Today we're going to do a painting tutorial for this guy right here. This was a painting I made. It was inspired by the sunset on Christmas night in the Florida Keys. Last month I spent some time in Florida with my travel trailer. And if you guys would like to see more about my travel adventures, I have another channel called Travel Season. I'll leave a link for that below in the description section, and maybe I'll put a pop-up up there too if you're interested in following my travel adventures as well. But back to this painting. This tutorial can be completed in about 1 hour, and I'd put this somewhere between beginner and intermediate level, and it's using acrylic paint. Just don't go too large with the canvas size or it might take you longer to complete. But that's what we have going on today, so sit back and enjoy the tutorial coming up next. Okay, we are going to be using the Liquitex soft body acrylic paints today. I have my colors on the palette here. First we have Mars Black, Magenta, Ultramarine Blue, Yellow Ochre or Yellow Oxide, either one, Yellow Azo, Cadmium Free, Yellow Medium, Flesh Tint. This is Fluorescent Orange, which should be a fun one to use for the sunset here. This is Cadmium Free Red Light, a little bit of Crimson Red, some Phthalo Green, Burnt Umber, Titanium White, and of course Phthalo Blue. All right, we are working with a 9" by 12" canvas panel. We are using the soft body acrylic paints. We also have some brushes. We're looking at a few flat tip brushes. We got like a 1" flat tip brush, but a little smaller flat tip brush, another one with a little angle on it, and then we've got a fine round tipped brush, and this guy, I don't know what this guy is. He's kind of a round brush. He used to be a flat angled brush, but now he's a round-ish brush after me letting the paint dry and partially destroying him. Okay, and then we also have our paper towels for wiping down the paint off of the brushes. We also have a cup of water here that I already cleaned a brush off in, and we're ready to get started. All right, for this one, I think what we're gonna do is we'll start with that horizon line. I'm gonna blend a little bit of black and a little bit of blue, dip it in the water, and we're gonna put that line, so put a little mark in the center of your canvas, little tag there, crosshair, and we're gonna look about 1" up from there and just make a straight line right across. Try to get as straight as you can. If you want to take the time to put a piece of tape down to make sure your line is perfectly straight, you're welcome to do that too, and then just take the tape off after you painted your line. But in general, there is our horizon line. We're gonna get some of the colors going in the sky, and then we're gonna work on the water. So I'm just gonna clean off that brush really good, get all the dark blue off of there. All right, we're gonna start by mixing some of our cadmium free yellow with some white, and we'll blend a little tiny bit of phthalo blue, tiny dab of phthalo green, and some more white, a little more white. All right, and that color is gonna go about 1" above your horizon line, and you don't really wanna go past center with that. Just kind of carry it over to that left side of your painting. Then you're gonna take some more yellow medium with white and put that below it. Just going back and forth with the brush, letting it blend right into that first color I put down by just continuing to go back and forth. I don't have too much paint on my brush, because I still want to get some blending in. Now I'm going to mix a little fluorescent orange in there, and we're going to put that color at the bottom, a little more orange and yellow. And we're going to put this color right above the horizon line, and let that work up and blend. So the key to getting a good sunset is being able to blend. Take a little bit of your red. We'll put that right above the horizon line there. And then for this one, I want to get the extra paint off my brush and then do a little blend. There we go. So we're starting to get those colors in the sky. Just going to take some white with my yellow. Carry that way over to this edge of the canvas. There we go. Looking good. Pick that up just a little there. Okay. And now that we got that, I'm going to take a little more of that red color, add a bit of white. Take some more of our orange. A little more red. And let's take a little more yellow. And we'll carry this color past the center point. Blend a little more of your green in here. Let those two colors kind of blend together. Very softly blending. And then we have some clouds down here. So we're gonna take some magenta with some white. Some of our cadmium red. We're going to start with that color. And let's take a little crimson and a hint of ultramarine. That just made it a little of a darker, cooler purple. And we're just going to put a cloud right there. So we're still using the same brush. Didn't clean it off too much. It's going right up to that horizon line. And then if you want to take the extra paint off your brush, you can kind of fluff out that edge of the cloud and just very gently pressing that cloud to let it blend out the colors. Now I'm just kind of building up the cloud. Building up the opacity. Could take a little more ultramarine, a little more magenta. And we'll keep this color going. More white. Basically all the way out to the right side of the canvas. Just go right above the horizon line all the way out. Let's take a little more red, or crimson red. Start to blend those in a little better. Let's take a little more of our cadmium red. Just put that at the top of that cloud. Just give it a little warmth at the top there. And then we want to lighten underneath, so we're going to take that flesh tint. It's kind of blended in the middle of all these spots where you get a little bit of yellow, a little bit of your red. You can even add a little more white. Yeah, I guess I'll add a little orange to that again. And we're just going to put a line like right above the horizon line, right under the cloud. You just put down. And if the blue from painting your horizon line is blending with your other colors, then you might want to let that dry for a minute and then come back and paint the sky. Again, I'm taking the extra paint off my brush and just blending, softening that edge. And I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine blue and magenta to this cloud over here. It's getting a little darker. As it's moving to the right side. All right, looking nice. Okay, Just gonna rinse that brush off a little bit there. Get the extra paint off the brush after I rinsed it. And we're gonna go back to that sky color. We're gonna take a little of our reds, our yellows, like a hint of phthalo. And put that over here, right above that cloud. And just carry that, blend it down into the top of the cloud just a little bit. You don't want to have like a smooth transition, but you want to have a little bit of softness to the top of that cloud. I'll just add a little bit more of that up here too. Maybe a little more yellow. Maybe a little more green. All right, I'm gonna adjust the top of this cloud a little. Alrighty. Again, I'm gonna rinse off that brush. Make sure your brush is really clean here because we are gonna use some bright yellow now. All right, so we're gonna go for yellow azo with white. And we're just gonna put that right up against that green, kind of right over it. Let it come up and basically touch that yellow orange color you had there. Then you want to have one streak kind of coming up, a couple spots if you want. You could make this, well, these light rays work however you'd like. And then we're just going to take some pure yellow and put those over top, just in a couple little spots over, not fully covering, but like on the top part of some of these highlights there. And we're going to take some of our vibrant orange, fluorescent orange, while I still have some yellow on my brush, and that's making this look a little more natural of an orange, which is nice. And I'm just going to put a little streak there. I really could do this entire painting with just this brush. Kind of carry that streak out a little. Put another couple little clouds underneath. Nice and bright. And then we want to cover up this white space with that orange. Right in here. And I'll take a little cadmium red. Orange, red, do some cadmium yellow medium. I got a nice reddish orange color here. And you just want to keep your brush strokes back and forth. All right. Get some more cadmium red, a little bit of white, and we can add some of that up here, just above that yellow. Let it carry over to the side of the canvas. We basically want to use this all across this part here. Take a little more orange, and you want this to even come down into this sky here. Just keep your brush strokes really light, don't press too hard, and that'll give you that nice fluffy cloud appearance. And yeah, you basically just make this line. You should be about halfway between your horizon line and the top of your canvas now, where you put that red. And if it's not, that's okay. This is a landscape. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine for it to read realistically. You just, make up for, if you put it too high up, then you're just gonna have to cut off some of the stuff that I put at the top of my painting. Take some more white, some more orange, yellows. Just start to create some tiny little lines by very gently pressing the canvas. Kind of making the brush strokes go back and forth. Cover up all that white space. You don't want to have any white space here. Mixing a little more white in here for this side. It's a little lighter over here. And if you cover it up too much yellow, that's okay, because we can always go back. I know I'm going to have to go back and layer up again with some of my yellows and whites. Take some more orange and red. That right over there. All right, I'll take some flesh tint, white, put a little sky color there, maybe a little orange. And we'll do that again on the other side, more flesh tint. Let's take a little magenta too. Just put that right over top of your red line. All right, we'll take a little more magenta. And then bring that over, a little more magenta even, a hint of blue. Coming over onto the left side of the canvas now, basically just starting right above that red line we painted. Starting to pull that up a little. Take a little more blue and magenta. Make it a little more purple as you get closer to the left side. You can add some in this spot that I left. And right now I want to take a look and see if there's any white space. I see a little white space here. There's actually a dark cloud there, so I'm going to take some magenta, blue, and crimson, and some umber. And we're just going to take a little more blue. Yeah. And we're just going to put this cloud right here, kind of covering up some of that orange. You don't have to do this. If you didn't have any white space left over here, you don't have to put this cloud in. Or if you had a lot of white space, you might want to make this cloud bigger. Then just get the extra paint off the brush, kind of fluff up the top by very lightly going back and forth and making that cloud puffy texture. Very softly blending it. And there's another little dark one like right here. And down here. Okay, so we got those. So now there shouldn't be any white space left in this section down to this whole area. And if you do have white space, this is when you want to go back and touch up a couple little things. I just see a little spot there. Little spot there. But other than that, we're basically good. All right, now we're going to keep moving up. So over here we have more ultramarine blue. Let's take some white, a little magenta, and a little more magenta, and a little more ultramarine blue. And we'll just basically go over what we just had there. Go right up above the line you just painted until it connects with the other one. And you're gonna make a diagonal line. Well, make it like an inch right here, and then we're gonna do a diagonal line like this. So your diagonal line, so you have about an inch of space up here, comes out about 2 inches, and then diagonal to right above center, okay? So that we've got like a little opening here that I wanna include in the painting. So then you're just gonna cover most of this side with this blue and magenta combo. We're gonna mix a little more white in there, a little more blue, and a little bit of ochre. Yep, that's pretty good. And we're just gonna cover up this whole side, right above that pink, all the way to the top. And this is where if you have a bigger brush, you wanna use that. You can use a bigger brush to get this done a little faster. And we'll get a little more blue and just cover that up there. So I just use a little ultramarine blue, kind of let it blend there. You can take a little more ultramarine blue and just kind of put that right at the top and let it blend down into your other color that you had, just to make it a little more blue at the top, a little darker and a little more blue. All right, looking good. Now we can take some of our white, our little bit of phthalo blue, a little bit of phthalo green, a little more phthalo green. And this color is gonna go right in here. Ooh, that's pretty. Maybe a little more white and phthalo green. Yep, put this right here. A little more white at the bottom. Let's go right above those clouds that you put in there with that purple and ultramarine color. Kind of let it blend in a little. Take a little more white. And now you want this to blend in with that diagonal line you put there. Basically just cover up that white space, and then once you did that, take the extra paint off your brush, and you're just gonna go back and forth with the brush, kind of blending, but kind of leaving like shapes of clouds, kind of like stratusy looking clouds. You don't wanna have like a perfect blend of the color. You wanna leave a little bit of that cloudy texture. All right, looking pretty good. Take a little bit of that color and put some right above that pink. Put a little sky there. Okay, so we're gonna keep using this nice light blue-green color. Add a little more white if you need to. And that's gonna be the little openings in our clouds. So most of this is covered with clouds, but some of it, there's a little bit of sky peeking through. So you're just gonna start to take your brush, very gently press so it glides over that other paint that's down. And just start to add some sky peeking through the clouds. Just got a few of these here, so basically I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're getting smaller and closer together as we're moving down. Whoops. So there's one here. This one's a little closer. They don't have to be perfect straight lines. Another one even closer, right below that. I'm gonna make this one kind of blend into two other little ones. Just starting to lighten up over here. Just very gently pressing, guys. I don't want to press too hard or it's gonna drag the paint everywhere, and I just want it to glide over. I'm just gonna take some white with a little bit of that yellow and orange. Let's put a little highlight there at the bottom of that cloud. Gonna brighten up this section a little bit. Between the pink and the purple. Gonna let that blend. Sky's looking pretty nice. We're gonna take a little more ultramarine blue now, a little more phthalo green, white, more phthalo blue. And let's take a little more phthalo blue here. It's getting pretty blue at this point. And we're gonna put another little cloud up here, or no, not cloud, but opening in the cloud. And they're starting to get more blue now. Start to add just a little bit of that phthalo blue color throughout the little sky area here. Add a little more white to the middle section. I'm just making like diagonal back and forth brush strokes to get it to have a little bit of the cloud look. And things are starting to get a little bit darker over, whoa, too much blue. Over here. Just doing those back and forth brush strokes coming down. Okay, and then in this part of the sky, we want to have more of that cloud color. So I'm going to mix some flesh tint with my ultramarine blue and some pink and a little bit of our, what was that color? Cadmium free red light. And we're just going to put that right here, starting to build up on that first cloud that we had. Then add another one. You can dip your brush in the water if you want to thin it down a little so it's a little easier to control and not quite as or it's a little more translucent. Just doing a nice little blend. Add a little more ultramarine to make it darker. And let's take some more ultramarine, blend it over that other color, but not going pure ultramarine blue yet. Just building up that color, blending in a little. And then we can take a little bit of pure ultramarine at the top, let that blend a little bit into the clouds. A little bit up in this corner. Anytime you want to blend, just get that extra paint off the brush and go right on the edges and push that paint around. All right, looking pretty good. Take a little more of that blue and I'm just gonna, let's mix a little brown in there too. And a little bit of crimson. And just build up the, oh, that's a little too dark. Let's add some flesh tint. And we'll just build up the clouds a little bit in a couple spots. Just so they look a little less flat. Add a little more red. All right, then we're gonna take more pink flesh tint, some crimson and some magenta. Let's do a little more crimson. Let's do a little bit of the cadmium red there too. That's a good color. And then we can put these little kind of warmer highlights on the clouds towards the bottom here. Take some pure flesh tint and put that in there. And let's take some of our, see what happens if we mix the orange with some magenta. Okay, I like that. Let's add a little bit of that right here. Ooh, that's really nice. Let's add a little white to that too. Let's give those a couple little highlights. I'm going back and forth, and I'm creating a little bit of a diagonal to create more of the cloud textured look. Taking a little more purple and take some flesh tint there to kind of mute that color down a little, cool it down a bit. A little bit of white. And let's take a little brown. Crimson, magenta, white, a little bit of cadmium red medium. And let's just build this up a little here. Take some more flesh tints and magenta. And some white. All right, let's go back to our, actually let's clean off the brush pretty well there. And we're just gonna take some of our orange. Let's see what happens if we take the orange without blending it with any colors. I have a feeling it's gonna be too much. That's actually pretty good. For a sunset scene, that's pretty good orange. When I bought this fluorescent orange, the bottle on the internet did not look this fluorescent. So I was like, okay, this will be like a cadmium orange, but no, it is fluorescent. Again, just making those back and forth brush strokes. Trying to add some highlights on the red sections here. Just enough to get some nice highlights going in here. It's really bringing the sunset to life. This is beautiful orange color. Get all the extra paint off the brush. Now I'm just going to take some pure white. And I'm going to put that white over the yellow a little bit. And kind of go over the orange just a little bit in a couple little spots. This is where I'm going to build up my highlight for the yellow and super bright highlights again. All right, we're gonna let that sit and dry. Then we can add our nice bright yellow over that. Kind of want to take that magenta with the orange again and some white and brighten up a couple highlights up here. Want to kind of let that orange kind of transition into this magenta and orange color that we have here. Even a little more white. And then let's take like a tiny bit of ultramarine. I'm going to add a few more of these brighter highlights up in these clouds here. Okie doke. All right, so we're going to let that keep drying, and I'm just going to head down to the actually, you know what? Let's add the land that we have in the picture. I'm going to take some burnt umber, some black, and some phthalo green. And the land comes to about the halfway point, comes up a little bit. You can make the shape of this land however you'd like. It's just a little section of land in the Florida Keys. And we can add a couple of little palm trees. I'm just going to take this brush and just dab to give it the little palm tree shape. If you have a liner brush and you want to use a liner brush, that would be great for these little palm trees here. Just adjusting the shape of that land after I did not like some of my palm trees. Creating like a little textured surface here for the land so it's not just like flat. Putting some plants on there. I like it. And now let's take the bigger brush. I'll finally switch to this brush. And we're just going to take some phthalo blue with some brown and some phthalo green. And we're just going to take the brush, hold it this way, and get a nice straight line. Again, if you want to take the tape out, this would probably be a better time to use the tape than the first time I told you, because the first time was just to know how far up and down on the canvas our horizon line was. But now, if you want to have a perfectly straight line here, you might want to get that tape out. If you don't care how perfect it is, like I don't care, then you can just do what I just did and kind of eyeball it. Doing good. And then you want to get a nice, good, thick coverage. You don't want to see any of the white space under this blue. You want it to be really dark. And again, just taking blue with a little bit of phthalo green. Basically just covering up the bottom of the canvas, covering everything with this color for now. Take a little black, and you can blend that in at the very bottom because things get really dark at the bottom. And just go back and forth with your brush strokes, trying to get good even coverage of paint on the canvas. You don't want to leave any white space. All right. Now we're going to clean that brush off and go back to the first brush we were using, which is was an angled brush. Now it's like a round tipped-ish brush. And we're going to take some of our yellow azo with white. Make sure you're not getting any blue or dark color in there. And now you're just going to go over your white that you had at the top. I'll give you a nice bright highlight. go right over all the white. All right, now I'll just take some straight yellow azo and put that under some of the white. We'll paint over top, but like on the lower sections of highlights. Or just in a couple of random spots, wherever you want. Just throw some actual yellow in there. Make sure you don't have any more white. That's the biggest thing there. All right, and you can take just a little bit of cadmium red and crimson with that yellow you already have, and just let's add a couple little clouds in front here. Just so we're not overwhelmed with this bright section on the canvas. I think I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, blend it with my orange, and adjust the highlights in a couple spots for the orange. All right, and now our sky is done. Now I just got to work on the water. So for the water, we're going to take some ultramarine blue, some phthalo green, some flesh tint. It's pretty good to get a little more of our phthalo green. And then we can make another little section right next to that one that's got some phthalo blue in it and some phthalo green. So it's gonna be darker. And we're gonna play around with this a little bit here. It's gonna be a little bit of layering. So first let's go about 1 inch down from your horizon line and just do a line right across. All right, and then once you got that line down, I want you to take your brush and just kind of go back and forth, letting it kind of blend in with the color that was already there, but leaving a couple little streaks of that lighter blue turquoise color. And then again, we're going to take some of that lighter color and let's get a little more ultramarine blue in there. And we'll put this one just about a 1/2 inch below. Just make a line straight across basically and start going back and forth with your brush, holding it this way so it gets those nice thinner lines. And we're just starting to build up some light and color in the water here. And you kind of want to continue this all the way down, kind of keeping it at like, kind of like zigzagging at an angle down. It's kind of giving you that water, little highlights on the water. You don't want it to blend too much, but you don't want it to just be like, bam, here's a highlight right on top of the water. Because we're going to try to build these highlights up a little bit. A little more white. Again, keeping that like zigzag pattern, but also making the paint go at like an angle. Okay, then we're just gonna take some phthalo blue for this bottom section here. Something like that. It's good for a starting layer. All right, now we're gonna take our phthalo blue with some flesh tint and brown and some magenta. And we're just going to take this brush and just go back and forth. Oops, it's a little too bright. And back and forth and just creating these little ripples. The lighter you press, the thinner your line's going to be. And you want your lines to get thinner as you're going back or up on the canvas. Oh. And again, a liner brush will be easier here. I'm just trying to see if I can do this with just 2 brushes. Very good. And then you can take more of that shadow color, blue, black, and just start to add a couple little shadows the same way you just add those highlights. And then make like a bigger shadow right above that first highlight we put in there in the water. And then keep going with your shadows. Start to pull those down. Just mixing my blue and black to get a shadow color here. All right, looking good. And then we're starting to get some bigger highlights. And I think, you know what, I'm gonna switch. We're gonna use this brush, the fine round tipped brush. And we're gonna take some flesh tint and some phthalo green, a little bit of ultramarine blue, more flesh tint. And just gonna dip down the water a little bit. And now we're gonna start to add some brighter highlights. Actually, let's get a little more blue. And this is much easier, look at that. And we're basically just making those back and forth little patterns. Very gently pressing the canvas. If you guys don't have one of these brushes, you can see how much easier it is to paint with these for these tiny little lines than it was with that flat tip brush. So I recommend getting a fine liner brush or a fine round tip brush if you don't have one yet. And I do have a link to my Amazon Associates in the description under my video if you wanted to see the brushes and paints that I like to use. Starting to go up a little bit, adding a couple little highlights in there. So the sun basically, it already set below the horizon, and that's why we're not getting those colors in the water quite as much yet, but it is really illuminating the sky. We do get a little bit of the sunset colors in the water, but not as much as when the sun hasn't set over the horizon line yet. So I'm just going back and forth very gently. I didn't overpower the brush with paint. Just very gently pressing so I don't make blobs of paint on here. All right, let's get a little bit of white in here, a little more flesh tint. And we can start to add more highlights. So now wherever you have a shadow, you kind of want to add a highlight over top of it. And you can make your highlights have like that zigzag over them. So like here's a big shadow. So we can do like a zigzag of highlights right over that shadow. And that kind of makes it look like water. Where else? We've got one like right here, you can add one. Got one over here. Just don't overdo the highlights. You want to still leave some of these darker spaces. for the shadows on the water. So water's flowy and it always has like this kind of waves, like sine wave type shape. It just depends on how rough the water is, for how big your sine waves are or how calm they are. So this one's really calm, but we still keeping that like back and forth zigzag thing while keeping like kind of like a sine wave. All right, and then things start getting a little more spread out down here. Don't have quite as many bright highlights. Now we can take more of our phthalo blue, phthalo green, and add like a mini, not like as bright of a highlight, but a little bit of a highlight there. There we go. Then we can go back to our deep shadow colors. Oh, blue and black. And I'm going to add dark shadow right there again. This guy here. And I'm going to make this one kind of come down like that. And put another little one. All right, good, looking like water. Let's do a little more down here with the shadows. Start to kind of build up the intensity of your shadows at the base of the painting. And let's just take some of that phthalo blue green color. Start to add a couple intermediate highlights, kind of going the opposite direction from your zigzags you did the first time. Final touch, we want to let this water all be very dry, and then we're just going to do a final round of highlights where we still have a little bit of the pinks and oranges in the sky coming onto the crests of the water there. And that's really it. If you want to add like a couple little lights for like buildings over here, you could do that. You just want to add like a little bit of yellow and white and like a little bit of like fuzz out the yellow, then put a white dot in the middle of it, and that'll look like a building illuminated. But that's basically it. Pretty straightforward painting. We're going to take some of our flesh tint, our orange, and our magenta. And that'll be a nice color for these highlights. Maybe a little bit of yellow azo. Yeah, there we go. Just gonna dip that in the water. And we're gonna start by getting that paint nice and thin down so I can get nice, good lines. And you only want to add these bright highlights over the light blue, because the light blue is the crest where we're getting the bit of light from the wave highlight, the light hitting the wave. So only put the bright yellow over the light blue. Don't put it on the black. And I'm very carefully doing this, trying to pay attention to where I'm putting these highlights so I don't overdo it. Kind of want to add a little more orange. You can make it keep your zigzag shape for some of these. This is really making that water come to life now that we have this beautiful bright highlight. And we're going to take some more of our flesh tint for the outer highlights over here. It's a little more fleshy and less orange. Kind of let that color fade into the orange color in a couple spots. I'm just going to take some straight up orange here. It's like really bright in this spot.
adjusting a couple of these waves where there's just too much blank space. Adding a couple more little shadows to make those highlights stand out even more. Alright guys, and that is the finished painting. So pretty straightforward. I didn't get too crazy with the layering and the details in this one, but it's a really vibrant sunset and it translated very well with these acrylic paints.
Alright, that concludes this painting tutorial, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any recommendations for future painting tutorials you'd like to see, then just leave a comment below this video, or you could send me some reference photos on Instagram. My Instagram is thepaintingstoof. And also, if you recreate this painting, you can post it on your Instagram and tag me so I can see it. And other than that, have a great day and happy painting. Bye-bye.